Okay, hello world. I'm player 3, and today we'll be looking at uh, some some collision detection issues in Runaway. To start with, let's just look at where things are now. As you can see, well, ignore the lines for the moment. Let's just talk about running over empty gaps. The problem here, the one that I'm trying to solve today, is that everything is solid, even holes. Oh yeah. I guess there's a lot to talk about before we start, but just to make it quick, these lines are for debugging purposes. They show a little of what's going on inside this. They follow you around and they measure the distance to the nearest wall. And if the line is short enough, there is a collision. And since currently they always point, like there's always one pointing directly down, there is always a collision below you. You can always stand wherever the wall is, whether or not it's a solid wall or there's a hole in the wall. You can always stand on it because the short enough line indicates a collision. What we want to do, and here's where I get out some drawing tools. What we want to do is actually, I need a new image of this, just to show exactly. But we want to draw these lines only to the nearest actual tiles, the nearest solid ground. And so using this screenshot, okay. So using this screenshot, I'm going to draw out where we want the lines to appear. Instead of a line straight down, we want a line that goes to the nearest tile, and another line that goes to the other nearest tile. And no line in the middle there. So let's hide that. Actually, and let's change the color of the lines, because these lines going to the nearest tile would be way too long to indicate a collision. So they would show up as white and there would be no collision. I don't know what's up with the shape of the lines. That's my drawing software that I'm not fully used to yet. But I'm pretty sure it has to do with the pressure I'm inputting at any given point while drawing it. Okay, so here is our goal. And I'm just going to write it down for posterity. And Joy is working it with text in Krita. Okay. This goes in here. And it keeps forgetting my hotkeys. And if I've done my work right, this should now be showing up in the slideshow to the side, so you can see it and get reminded as necessary. Sorry, I'm just going to take a moment to wait around and make sure it does show up. And if not, I will fix it manually. Okay. Going to be making some more slides today as well, just show a little more of what's going on. Why don't we up it to make the slides take a little longer, just okay, so in theory, a lot of this should work. I just need to enable it. If I remember where I disabled it. Okay, I don't remember where I disabled it. Now I get to search through a bunch of code and guess check back later. Actually, I need to know something. Which means a little more gameplay. Yay. Okay, that's good to know. Yeah. So what I did there is just check to see how many objects are actually being tracked as collidable entities in the scene. Because I forget how it used to be is that every tile is its own separate thing. And I wasn't sure if I changed that. I do want to change it, because that is a lot of tiles that mostly don't need to be doing their own separate things. But I didn't change it yet. Okay, so next up, we want to, I guess if all of these are in the scene, then why aren't they already doing the thing? And, well, what I attempted to do was display their bounding boxes. But I put the code in the wrong spot. Okay, hopefully now it should display. Bounding boxes are important because if the bounding boxes don't overlap, then nothing else happens either. Oh, okay, I see it. I think I found what I did. So, brace yourself for a lot of lag, because I don't think it's very smart to re-enable all of this all at once. But I could be wrong. Okay, so yes, we're now seeing the glitchiness of all of this. So let's bring those bounding boxes back, or add them in, because we've got all these tiles and they aren't colliding, and they should be colliding. And okay, so there's lag. Yeah, so it's displaying all the bounding boxes somewhere, but oh yeah. And that's why I'm not touching the walls right now, because if you do, sooner or later, you fall through, which is a problem for another day. Okay, so I think what's going on is that all of the bounding boxes are at 0, like 0, 0, the origin. And when they should be where the tile is. So we're going to try a quick fix first. But didn't. Oh dear. We can't do the quick fix yet. It's more trouble than it's worth to explain why. I just need to figure this out. Actually, based on this, it's looking like the bounding boxes are... Oh, no. Okay. Yeah, so a lot of things are ending up at very wrong z values. 0, 0, 75, 70. It's correct for a moment, and then it's not. Which may, like I don't know what I expected from this, but I was hoping not to have to explain matrices just yet. Because that is a whole thing for another day. On the other hand, no, that is a thing for another day. Okay, so can't see it very well from here. Can see it a little better here. The important thing is the z value here. So it's the last number on every single line. And we want it to be not 0, not 75. We want it to be higher. Because to make a long story short, we're essentially taking the number at the very top and adding it to the numbers here, and we should get a high number up here, which we are currently. But if we wait a little longer, no, it's actually all apparently working. Just doesn't stick, because if it was working like this, we would be seeing. Okay, so you can see the boxes here for the wall. That's great. That's intended. We should see more of those. Guess the only thing I can think of is maybe they're being hidden by the fact that there is a tile there. So what if there wasn't a visible tile there? Could we see the boxes underneath them? I don't think we can, because normally if you can, it flickers if there are two things in exactly the same spot. So we're just going to make all of the terrain completely transparent. We're going to see if there are little white boxes underneath. And there are not, as I thought. Which is what I was afraid of. And then we need to figure out how to get boxes underneath the terrain. So we'll bring it back. We will I just don't know what exactly we're going to do to make it actually work. I mean, there's a slight chance that it's just a glitch in the box display code, which if it is, I just fixed it. But no, it does not look like it. So, so we need to figure out something else. And I just don't know what. This is the debugging experience. You just sit at a screen and think of what could possibly be wrong and try things to try and figure out if you're right. Then suddenly, once you figure it out, it can be only minutes to fix. But for now, we're just going to sit around until I manage to find it. Okay, so yes, there are a lot of objects on screen. They're all being checked against one another. Usually nothing comes of that. It just ends very quickly because the bounding boxes are not overlapping. The bounding boxes are what I'm trying to display. And I can't display, but they certainly aren't overlapping. So you can just sort of skip on to the next one quickly. But I don't know why the bounding boxes are in the wrong place. Because if they were in the right place, they'd be overlapping more. Nope, that didn't help at all. So that was not the issue. You know what? Let's explain bounding boxes a little more. Let's do that with a screenshot of the character's bounding box. Okay, did we get a good shot? Yeah, let's add some visuals to back it up. Okay. Very simple bounding boxes. The point of bounding boxes is that you can, if you have touching bounding boxes, you do some fancier math to figure out if the character inside this bounding box is colliding with the tile inside this bounding box. But since this, and that's extra work, but since these two bounding boxes are not touching, you don't have to do the extra work. So they're convenient. Okay. So that's roughly what I'm talking about. Hopefully the visuals are good enough, because I want to get back to debugging. Oh, and I need to update the slideshow. That should do it. Okay. And of course, the problem is that if bounding boxes aren't even there, then they're not overlapping, and it always skips it, and it doesn't draw the lines, it doesn't it just doesn't work right. You can't have platforming without collision. Ooh, I know. Tend to I'm not sure whether to draw this line for demonstration purposes or leave it out, because the point is we're leaving it out. I guess I will leave it out. But hopefully the red line makes it a little clearer what I mean by do extra work. How about that? And now I guess the question is, why are these white lines being drawn if there's obviously no bounding box overlap? The reason for that is there is bounding box overlap. It's just the bounding box of the whole entire tunnel, which entirely contains this bounding box, which counts as overlapping. Okay. Now I just need to figure out where the bounding boxes went. Given that the numbers claim they're in the right place, but then they don't show up there. And I don't know why. So I think where they all are is at 0, 0, 0, as I've mentioned before. And one thing that would help is if we just started a little further back so we can see that. Yeah, look at all those little boxes up there. They're supposed to be semi-transparent, but there are so many of them they're just entirely solid. And it's lagging pretty horribly because that's just a lot of extra boxes to draw. Possibly some other reason. Okay. I don't think we need to know the number of collisions tested anymore. All right. So that is a very long line. But They claim to end up in the correct position. They consistently claim that, but then the visuals demonstrate that not to be true because of all those little, all these little boxes up there. Yeah, these are all over the place. There's one near the start, one, I don't know, that's 25 tiles down off the top of my head. Close to 30 tiles down. Some more. And we're just not seeing these anywhere. If they're there, they should show up there. I mean, honestly, this was the problem that made me want to change everything in the first place. Just because everything ought to work. It all seems to work, but then somewhere along the line, they all get sent back to the start, and I don't know where and when and why. So it just sort of got to the point that I gave up and said I will do it without bounding boxes, which is really not ideal. Okay, brace yourself for more lag than ever before. In theory. Okay. So what we saw there was a lot of solid lines. You see how this one from a previous session is semi-transparent. The one right there was solid white. And the reason for that is because apparently when you just enable all the collisions, you skip the bounding boxes entirely, you draw all the lines, they go straight to the walls, just like before, which didn't think would happen, but it's interesting. Well, a lot of them do that. Some of them were sticking out the back of the runner, heading towards those, that cube, small cube hanging in midair. So heading towards 0, 0, 0. Which makes me wonder about how well the tiles are keeping track of their own dimensions. So let's look at some additional information about individual tiles and how they're doing these calculations. Hopefully this will tell us, it's not going to solve the bounding box problem, but hopefully it will solve some problem. Okay. Now let's make it stop lagging so much. Well, that does explain a bunch. So look at this one because it's not overlapping anything. Source normal and normal. Won't get into the details, but it's supposed to do some calculations. Actually, no. That might be fine now that I think about it. Yeah, normals are supposed to be length 1. So the real problem is The real problem is potentially just Oh no, that's not even true. Okay, so one thing I'm curious in is if we take off the permanent collision, the thing where you always collide, do we go back to the previous behavior where you would walk a few feet and then fall through? Or have things changed enough since then? Oh, wow. Now we're getting different results. Okay, interesting. Now that I've glitched into the wall, these lines have split apart, and they're not fully transparent anymore. Because they're going from different points to different points. Oh, and I know why they're doing that, because they're trying to push you back into the level. And so I guess you're moving around a bunch of times a frame. It's just not working. And I think I know why that is too, but that's a problem for another day. So... Well, for the moment, I don't think we need the permanent collision because we've got permanent collision from just the tiles themselves. But we need to display some different values. Specifically, I want to know what's going on with the tiles that always think they're directly above and below you. Why do they think that when they aren't directly above or below you? Why are there always the straight lines up, down, left, right? Because these lines are all supposed to point to yeah, right here. Right, so I did actually notice a problem that I wasn't sure was previously. But and I guess I will show you it in game. And it might help explain the bounding boxes, actually. Because this is another thing that is at 0 and shouldn't be. Okay. Let's make it stop lagging quite so much. Yes, this one, origin, vector 3D 0, 0, 0, should not be 0, 0, 0. It should be out where the tile is. By the way, let's just keep that number off in the corner for reference. Yeah, so it's trying to keep track of where the tile starts. Like one corner of a tile is the start corner. And then there's a horizontal axis and a forward axis. And axis 1 is horizontal, and axis 2 is forward. Except on vertical tiles, axis 1 is vertical, and axis 2 is forward. But it tracks the character's location. The character is represented by a sphere. And we will talk more about spheres later, but short version is I think they're awesome and really convenient, and so I use them as much as possible. Even for characters that don't look like these ones. But yeah, for a tile to accurately compare its position to the character's position, it would need to know the point it starts at, which is not 0, 0, 0. 0, 0, 0 is the middle of the tunnel, and there are no tiles in the middle of the tunnel, so no tiles should think that their starting point is the middle of the tunnel. But it looks like all of them do. 100% of the tiles think that they start in the middle of the tunnel. Which actually doesn't matter for axis 2. Well, axis 2, the z-coordinate matters. But it could be 0, 0, and then the correct z-coordinate would be fine. Okay, so yes, actually we do want to look at oh, sheesh, that's not actually a good example. We need to run further ahead and oh, it's not updating. Okay. Well, I can tell you why that is, at least. That is interesting, but we'll get to that later. Okay, so I was trying to find an instance where sphere center would have a z of higher than 75. just as an example of why it might be going wrong. But no, apparently that part is right. If it's higher than 75, then it's out of range of axis 2, because axis 2's length is only 75. Well, on default size tiles that are 75. So it should be it's always out of range somehow. Okay, which I guess means the problem isn't what I thought it was. The problem isn't that it's, well, part of the problem. There is still a problem of all the tiles think they start at 0, 0, but they don't think that you're directly above them just because they don't think you're directly above them when you move away from 0, 0. They just draw these perfectly straight lines anyway, even though they don't think you're perfectly. Yeah, they're just drawing the wrong line for this. So let's look at Okay, so let's look at what happens when you are too far ahead of a tile. In this case, in theory, every single tile, because they all think they're back at the start of the level and you quickly get past there. Okay, maybe all the tile code is correct except for the whole thinking they're at 0, 0 part, and maybe it is something else. So maybe the solid lines are coming from the sections in between levels. So I'm going to take those out for the moment and see if the solid lines go away. Yes, mostly, somewhat. Okay, so yeah, this is a lot closer to what I had seen before. Very laggy still, but yes, we've narrowed it down to. Well, there's the question of bounding boxes, which I think I might put back now, just because everything is so slow without them. And then the real key is why do the tiles think that they're at 0, 0? So it's either in my code for calculating an origin based on the character's position, or it's that this calculation never gets run. And so we're about to find that out. And it is looking very much like the calculation never gets run. Yeah. Well, that's convenient. At least it seems to mean that I don't have to do math to figure this out. I just need to run the code. Still nothing. Okay. You know what, I should just disable all those extra bounding boxes. Well, that's interesting. Oh, okay. Never mind. Oh, okay, I think I see it. Okay. So I think the problem was that I just put code in the wrong order. And so those vectors that were at 0, 0, 0, the origin values, were unable to get access to the object they needed to. Oh, hey, look at... Wow, all of a sudden everything is kind of working. Unless I walk on the edges, in which case... Wow, that was a very easy fix. I'm flat out lying there. It was only easy once it was found. But yes, that's how it is. Literally did not even change any code. I just moved it down. That's 12 lines. So I took 11 lines of code, cut it, moved down 12 lines, pasted it, and that was this. Yep, but the bounding boxes are still messed up. Okay, so we're not actually done here because... Or maybe we are? Okay, so there are just some other bounding boxes. Okay, so now I'm trying to show the bounding boxes again. And like making all the tiles invisible. The fun part is the level will still be playable with them invisible. So I'll see if I can beat level 1 completely invisible first try. Place your bets. No actual gambling. Just those are different, so they show up. Okay, so the first obstacle I can just walk over. And I failed. Okay. I need to move a little farther over. And then I needed to go back into the center. Okay. I'm not that good at my own game that I... Actually, if I move... Okay, so the goal is... My next goal is to move close enough to the wall that that the bounding boxes touch, but not close enough that it's a collision, which, now that I think about it, is probably impossible. Yeah, because the bounding box is very snugly fits the hitbox. So, and I think I hit the wall there. Okay, so that's always fun. Yeah, as you can see now, the lines are a lot more efficient. Since the bounding boxes seem to work, it only ever draws the line if it's within the bounding box, in which case it's usually a collision, so it's usually red. There are sometimes white lines, but those are rare, so we're saving a lot of processing power, which is great. Just walked over the first one and failed to jump the second. Yeah, I can't even beat level 1 blind. Like maybe if I touch the wall, but if I touch the wall, you start falling through things. So I can get that far, but yeah, no, the bounding boxes for some reason are all showing up way above. Okay, so am I displaying the wrong bounding box? Is that... I mean... Yeah, that did not change a thing. Okay. Now I'm just looking at some more numbers. Don't mind me. Okay, so the origin is being updated pretty nicely. And so are the bounding boxes. Look at that. Z values match up to within 75 units, which is correct. But if that's matching up, then Oh wait, I didn't finish changing anything. Okay, so NaN stands for not a number, and like that comes up when you've divided by 0 um, or done some other invalid operation. But I'm not quite sure. Oh, interesting. That's not what it... That's the one. Get position. Transform. Well... Okay, so we're getting back into matrices here. It looks like all of the data is correct, but we have some matrices with bad numbers. Infinity, not a number, not a number. Not a number, infinity, not a number. Yeah. None of these things should be infinite. None of them should be not a number. I don't know. I'll take a guess. Well, that's better. So, so manually resetting this did not help a lot. It's now stuck at the identity matrix, which is better than all those not a numbers, but it's not in the correct spot. Actually, I might have just gotten it. Maybe you're just not supposed to display boxes that have 0 width or height. Okay, yeah, let's abort. Okay, I think I can see how that would do it. With 0 width and height, then you can end up dividing by 0. Aha. Look at these bounding boxes. Now I can beat the level. Easy. So where did that text come from? That was there. Don't really care about that anymore. Okay. So let's get rid of some of this debug data and instead show the actual tiles again. And we've still got the characters bounding box. So I'll hide that. The next test will be to bring back the sections between levels so that you can actually get to the next level. After that, we will deal with the spinning, as amusing as it is. Yeah, let's see some more spinning while it still exists. Okay. Well, that was a mistake. Don't touch the walls. Okay, I guess I do have to touch the walls now. That's concerning. Oh, wow. Okay, so you always reset to level 1, and I don't know why. I'll try and get that fixed at some point, but for now, I guess I'll just see how far I can get without falling. As I say it. So you would be able to see two lines here, one going forward, one going down, to represent the two collisions taking place, but, well, character's in the way. The runner's in the way. I don't know why the camera does this sometimes. One of many bugs to be fixed in the future. But I think we can call this a success for today. Next time, perhaps we will debug the was going to say the spinning, but I think let's debug the walls. Well, as long as you keep jumping, you don't tend to fall through. But sometimes you do. Okay, well, I think one thing I want to do is make the runner's bounding box larger so that you can see more of these lines again. Something like this. Something like it's not big enough. Something like 3 times as large. It won't actually change the collisions, it'll just, the boxes will be overlapping sooner, and so it'll, boxes will be, like a larger box will overlap sooner, and then you will get the white line. That. Yeah, and this gives you a bit more of an idea of what I'm going for. In fact, we could get an even better idea if the box were, I don't know, twice as big as that. And then, but the point is that there is a line to wherever the nearest point is, which is usually straight next to you. But when there's a gap, it's not. When there's a gap, it points at various sides of the gap. Let's try and pause it at the correct point to show that. Oh, hey, look at that. One line to here, because that's a closest point on this tile. One line to here is the closest point there. One line over there is the closest point on that tile. And none of them are currently colliding, but when you moved closer, if you move down here, just sort of follow the line until you're at that point, then the line gets short enough, there is a collision, and it pushes you away in the direction of the line. So it pushes you away back this way, which is which means slowing you down because it's pushing you backwards into the level, and moving you inside because the line is also going sideways. It's a backwards plus sideways line. So it's gonna, whereas this one is sideways plus upwards. It'll push you into the level if you collide, if you move to around there and it gets short enough. And it'll also push you this way, and it'll rotate gravity. So once you've rotated gravity, pushing you towards this way means you're falling off. So that is why you slowly tip off as you run along the edges like that. And we don't have a big edge here, but you can see it push me sideways, almost to the point where I fell. And there I fell, because it pushed me sideways fast enough. Yeah, you can't really see the lines, though, with the runner in the way. But, yeah, it pushes you sideways slowly. You can still jump, so you can save yourself. But that's how edges of tiles are handled. And I do believe that about wraps it up for today. So next time we'll be looking at next time might be an art stream. Keep an eye out, but next debugging stream we'll be looking at the walls and why they behave so weirdly some of the time. Eventually we'll look at that camera glitch. Actually, no. We're going to do it right now. We're not calling this off just yet, because I do believe I know the problem with the collisions with the wall collisions, and that problem, once it compiles, is the bounding box. We're getting back into bounding boxes. And I saw this briefly before. Oh, yeah. Bounding box is huge, in theory. Medium size in practice. We're going to need a smaller bounding box to be able to see what's going on. Bounding box, more like this, maybe. And so I think, if I recall correctly, when you hit the wall, your bounding box, yes, it stops following you accurately. Some of the time. So some of the time it follows you correctly, and therefore the collisions get checked. But some of the time it does stuff like that. And so there are lines going off to the tiles on the sides there where the bounding box is, but not necessarily the tiles where you are. And that's pretty bad. And I might even know why that is. It's actually a good point to start the next stream on, because we're getting into matrices and well, no, I guess I can explain it here and now. Let's bring up Blender as a 3D editing environment. So Blender and pretty much everything else has this concept of a hierarchy. So we'll add an empty object to the scene, and I just put this cube inside an empty object. And what does that even mean? I am currently moving around this empty object, and the cube moves with it because it is inside. And now I'm moving around the cube. The empty object is centered at these axes. The cube does not have to be. But I still move the empty object, and I move the cube because the cube is inside the empty object. I don't want to call it empty. I want to call it parent and child. And these are important terms because they're just the general terms for this relationship. So the parent is whatever object is higher up in this hierarchy. It's on the outside. It contains the child. And so the child can sort of move around without affecting the parent, but whenever the parent moves, so does the child. And something, you know what? We're going to take down the slideshow for now, so that you can see this in full screen. Moving the parent around, let's actually let's do that so that you can see the parent's axes when the parent is selected. So orange means selected. This is the parent, this is the child, even though the child is bigger. Actually, let's fix that. Just make this as intuitive as possible, because it's not the most intuitive concept. So far, so good. But let's start looking at coordinates. So the parent is at negative x coordinate. Let's negative 5 approximately, and a y of around positive 1 for a y coordinate, and keep the z at 0. The child is not at negative 5, 1. The child is at 0, 0. Because, as far as the child is concerned, the parent's center is 0, 0. It's the origin. And so, when actually, but the real origin is over here. It's in the middle of the scene. But that's not where the child is showing up, because when it goes to show the child, it says, okay, we're going to take the 0, 0, and then we're going to add in the parent's coordinates. So we're going to 0 minus 5 to get the x coordinate, 0 plus 1 to get the y coordinate. Now let's move it to x of 1. So now it's not at the parent's center. It's 1 minus 5 is minus 4. And so it's displayed at minus 4, or negative 1 minus 5 is minus 6, and it's displayed all the way over there. And y is also negative 1. And so +1 from the parent, -1 from the child's location, and the child is now over there. I'm hoping this is intuitive enough, but the important thing is, or the important thing so far is that the parent defines sort of an alternate coordinate space where 0, 0 is over here. And you can convert between what the parent defines as 0, 0 and what the 0, 0 of the entire world is. Though it is not, unfortunately, as convenient as addition. I'm going to rotate the parent 90 degrees. So 0, 0 is still at -5, 1. But if you want to move x of 1, you're now in the z-axis because the parent rotated. The parent not only defines that this is 0, 0, but this is the x-axis, even though it's the z-axis in the according to the outside world, not the real world. Just so it can. The parent's rotation matters as well. And why is this important? Well, you may have guessed. It's because in Run, the world rotates. Or actually, the world does not rotate, but your perspective in the world rotates. And gravity rotates. And that is done by this sort of parent-child relationship. The tunnel and the stars stay fixed, but you exist in this rotated space where down is sideways, or sideways is down, or something. And so does the force of gravity exist in this rotated space. And so that's pretty great because you move left and right, you press the left key, you move left according to your space, the inner, like what the child sees as left. Left is negative on the x-axis. So Blender doesn't want to tip the camera. But yeah, you move left, and now you moved in that direction in the according to the real world, outside world perspective. But it looks right to you, and gravity is constantly pulling you down. Oh wait, I guess in this case it would be the z-axis. So gravity is pulling you in this direction, and you're moving left. And that's all well and good. And then we do the... there's more complicated math, as you can tell, than just add the things together, but it's handled by a way 3D at this point. It's a matrix multiplication operation, and you don't need to know the details because it just works. You just set up the parent-child relationship, and way 3D multiplies the matrices, and this all just works. The problem is, you need to be very careful not to confuse the inner coordinates with the real world, outside world coordinates. because, well, they are not the same in the slightest. And I, for the most part, have not gotten them confused. But right here in our previous example, let's go back to it. With the bounding box going in the wrong direction, I believe that is because, in fact, I'm fairly certain it's because you are it's using the outside coordinate. It's getting the two coordinates confused for certain types of motion. Specifically, like jumping in place. It's saying, so we're moving this direction on the y-axis, and so let's move the bounding box by that amount on the y-axis. But the bounding box is in outside world coordinates, and in the outside world, it's this direction on the y-axis. And so I got them confused, and it moves the bounding box in very much the wrong direction. And this was meant to be an optimization, that as long as you are only moving, not spinning, it's easy to do the math, like how I actually did the math over in Blender. I pointed out -5 + 1, simple as that. But this is exactly why it's actually not that easy. So the solution should be not to even bother trying to do that, because it doesn't work that way. And so if I don't do the special code, if I just do the slightly slower code to always recalculate everything, taking into account these matrices, then the walls should be a lot more reliable. The bounding box should, as seen here, just follow you, and you'd never lose track of it. And you stop suddenly falling through walls, because the reason you were falling through walls is because there were just so many times when the bounding box was in the exact wrong spot. Like it was off. It was off over here while you were over here, and with no bounding box there, it didn't draw the line, and without the line, it didn't detect the collision. Okay, so and now I'm looking at this. This, I believe, is just the camera. It's not a physics glitch. You aren't in danger of clipping through the terrain. But the camera is having a bad day. Okay, there's danger of clipping through the terrain at corners, but that is a different thing. think it's because of the code that tries to keep the camera inside the tunnel. That it, when it gets too close to a couple walls, it pushes the camera around. Wait a minute. Oh, okay. So that just happens the first time you play the level, and it was happening all along, which is great. Skip ahead. Yeah, okay. So it was a camera issue. And now the camera, like, since I disabled the code, the camera will just follow you all the way outside, which is not that bad for now. I'm just going to leave it for a bit. Wee spinny. I guess as long as I'm on a roll, let's try and fix the spinning, as amusing as it is. Lag. Okay. Lag decided it was time for that run to end. Okay, so it's nothing to do with tumble velocity, which kind of makes sense because that's only supposed to take effect once you leave. think this may have just been an error in a formula. No, it's not as simple as that. Or maybe it is as simple as that. Just... Yeah, so I found the formula that's causing you to keep spinning afterwards, but I still don't know why you spin while you're in contact with it. I guess I should speak up and explain what's going on. This is not a complicated issue. And it's not one that's super important to know about. Across programming languages, it's just the language I'm testing in treats numbers a little weirdly unless you give them an initial value. All of these, like, I've been running the game and it's been crashing as soon as I try to play, and that's all because there was a number that did not have an initial value. And so I gave it an initial value. And that problem went away. And we're back to where we were before. And this other problem is probably due to differences between degrees and radians. Long story short, two different ways of measuring angles, and if you get them confused, then either something will not appear to turn at all, or it will turn way too far. Yeah, so I think that was it. Turning way too far, I mean you're doing a complete circle multiple times a frame. Okay. So, I think you are moving back towards vertical, just way too slowly. So, Now I need to figure out how fast you're moving back towards vertical, and how exactly to speed it up. Oh, no. No, that wasn't the issue at all. The issue is that the code that was meant to bring you back towards 0 just wasn't happening. Or, well, it was not progressing past the first step. It would bring you a little bit back towards 0, but then forget that it had brought you that far, and so it would think it was starting over from your more tilted value. I don't know, I guess I need to draw it out, but does it even matter that much? Basically, it was losing your track of your progress moving back towards 0, and so it kept starting over. Yeah, one problem. Now that it's no longer losing track of your progress, it is going way too far, way too fast. I'm not sure why that is, but I am fairly certain it has to do with this degrees and radians thing. I've set it up to try and guess whether something should be degrees or radians. And the problem is, if it guesses wrong, then you're in trouble. But if it guesses right, it's very convenient. So we just have to catch it guessing wrong and tell it the right answer. Okay. Okay. Got it. Yep, as I guessed, it's converting 2 degrees, and therefore when it was supposed to be moving towards 0, it was instead being multiplied by 180 divided by pi. That's the conversion factor. But now that it uses the correct units all the time, it's back to how it should look. Okay. And with that, we're not done. I'm not done, but I'm a lot closer. Wow. I think I need to reload the compiler, because it should not be taking this long. Okay. Now let's just take a look at what we've got. We have collisions. And lack of collisions where there are not supposed to be collisions. We have glitches in the corners. But if we don't touch the corners, we have accurate wall physics. We have accurate edge cases, specifically walking on edges. We have glitchy areas between sections, which I guess should not be that surprising. So I'll try to be more careful around those. And we have errors with just you restart at level 1, but I should, in theory, be able to make it all the way to level 65 if I don't fail. Given that there are various glitches, who knows? Oh, and I keep running into the corners as if that was safe to do. It's not. Let's see, we have glitches between sections, just the colors of the triangles. It should be a simple fix. I just need to change which corner has which color. Because the wrong corner is light, the wrong corner is dark. As seen here. See, we do have lag. I suspect that it's not deleting as many objects as it should be deleting. Like, as you pass through levels, you're done with them. It should clean up, but it's not. And that's how we get this much lag. That's also how level 1 still exists. We reset all the way back to level 1, and everything is still here. And those are definitely related. And probably the cleanup code is working correctly. It just only cleans up once you reach the next checkpoint, once you wouldn't respawn in the area that's getting cleaned up. But since the respawn point is not updating, we're going to since the respawn point is not updating, it's staying in level 1. The code that would clean up level 1 and get rid of it and make things not slow down like that, that code is looking at the respawn point and saying it's not safe to remove level 1 yet, because you're going to respawn there. If we remove level 1, you will respawn in an endless void, and that's no fun. I just need to figure out why that is. But we got a lot done today. So I think I'm going to call it here. Thanks for watching. Happy New Year. And see you next time. Probably tomorrow I'm going to do just some drawing. Take requests if you want to watch.